Hey everyone, welcome back to another speed build video. It's been a few weeks and I've missed you guys, so we have a lot to talk about today. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about the build today. So today we're building in Brindleton Bay, which is the world that came with the Cats and Dogs expansion pack. And I think it's been out for a long time. It was probably one of the first packs The Sims made, and also, in my opinion, one of the most important ones. Now, what we're working on today is a new vet hospital or vet clinic, which I have been really excited to do since I started to work at a veterinary hospital myself. And now, don't get me wrong, I am not something cool. I am not a veterinarian. I am not a vet tech. I basically just, clean and make sure that things are where they're supposed to be. And then I pet some dogs and I go home. I am not one of the cool ones, though I do love my job and I get to see people do amazing things. And I am very excited about my job. I don't think I've ever really been that excited about a job before. I've liked my jobs before. I've loved a few jobs, but this is definitely on a whole other level. So I really wanted to kind of bring a bit of that experience into The Sims. And, I know a lot more about how an actual vet clinic works now. I never knew what went on behind closed doors before, and I think most of us don't. Obviously, we never really go back there unless, something tragic happens and, our own pets are in there for a long time. But we don't want to talk about that sad stuff. So, I just thought it would be really fun to kind of create based on my own experience. And I've just, thought it was funny or just fun in general to do. And so this is more of a modern vet clinic, and it's a really big kind of hospital. I think, it's also called the Hospital in Brindleton Bay in the actual expansion. So I thought I'd go along with those hospital vibes and just make it big and have all those things in the bag that we don't really think about. So I'll probably go through a bit of that as I'm working on each room and tell you a bit about why I put it there and what they're for. So if you're in any way interested in these kinds of veterinary things, I think this video is definitely for you. So as you can tell, this is a pretty huge hospital, and right now I am sort of just planning out where everything's going to go, which door is going to lead to where and what each room is going to do. So it's definitely a build that took a lot of planning, on the floor plan, because I had such a clear vision of what I wanted to do. I often just start building, a box or a cool shape or the outside of a house, and then, we build the floor plan based on that. But this was definitely a different kind of build because it was supposed to have all these functions, there were supposed to be all these different things that I knew. And when you want a lot more things than just a bedroom and maybe a bathroom, and a kitchen, then suddenly the planning, it takes a little bit more. So you can just tell that I'm kind of just moving walls around and putting things up. But I think in just, a few seconds, I'm going to start on actually decorating the reception. So this reception is definitely inspired by the real life reception at my job. So it's not inspired in a way that it's similar. It's very different, both in the way that it's, designed and laid out. But there was one thing that I thought was really, important to kind of put into The Sims 2, even though it isn't functional. So I kind of wanted it to be so there was one waiting area for cats and one area for dogs. And that's something we do at my vet clinic in real life. We have these dedicated rooms only for the cats and these dedicated rooms for dogs and other animals. And the reason that other animals get looped in with the dogs is actually pretty fun. So I was talking to someone who is, really cool, knows a lot more than me at my job. And she told me that things like, bunnies and guinea pigs and those small animals, they get more stressed out by smelling the smell of cats because they have a more predator-like smell than dogs. So that's why we keep them in, the room for the dogs instead of the consultation rooms for the cats. So I think that's, very interesting and definitely something I didn't really think about, because I kind of assumed that the scary ones would be, the big ones, the big dogs. But I also, get it when I was told, like, oh yeah, I guess cats are more like predators in that way. But I did kind of design this with the things that we do at my vet clinic, which is keep dogs and cats pretty separate. And this is in order to reduce the stress of the animals. So I think we have something, we're something called cat friendly, which is a sort of certification that apparently not all veterinary clinics are. Also, it is definitely also going to be different from country to country and, what works where. I work in Denmark and I also only really know this clinic. But the whole cat-friendly thing is because I think a lot of people don't really think about cats with the same kind of love that they think about dogs. It's definitely a culture thing. Like here, cats are seen as way more disposable than dogs. But we also need to make sure that they're not stressed out. And that's way easier when there's not, big dogs barking at them. So even though we have that designated waiting area out front for, each side, one for the cats and one for the dogs, we still, just generally when the cats come, we just put them inside a consultation room right away. And then they can just kind of acclimatize in there. And also, obviously, if a dog is stressed out, some dogs don't like being there either, or they don't like other dogs, then we'll do the same for them with the dog consultation rooms. But mostly other dogs do fine just waiting in the normal waiting area. Even though it doesn't really work in The Sims that, the cats are not going to go into the cat-designated consultation room, I thought it was really fun to decorate them for the different purposes. And yeah, it's just a fun real-life detail, and it's also fun always to kind of like roleplay a little bit in The Sims with things like that. So that is something I did, and you will also see, in a few other places that I kind of do things like that. But as I've been rambling, you've also seen me put together a lot of different areas in the vet clinic in general. But right now we are actually back in the reception for some more like final touches and the actual decorating part. And this is also where you'll see me put these little signs with like kitties go that way and dogs go the other way on the front desk. And I just thought that was like super cute. Also, if you're hearing something going on in the background, that's my dog. She just wants to move around a little bit. Sorry about that. Now, if you're a returning viewer, you know that I never turn down a chance to talk about my dog, especially when she's cuddled up right next to me, which is just, warming my heart so much. But yeah, I like to talk about my dog. And speaking of her, we actually have something really exciting going on right now. So in real life, my partner or boyfriend or whatever you call him, my Simon, just got offered a kind of like a job or I don't know, it's sort of a trainee kind of position in a bank. So he will be undergoing some education stuff and also working at the same time in a bank. But that also means that he will go from working only in the weekends at his normal job that he has right now to soon be working, a 9-to-5 bank job, which is definitely completely different from anything that, any of us have really ever done. I did it for a short stint when I was in the, programming and stuff like that. But I definitely thrive a bit more with walking around all day and petting dogs. But yeah, so since he will be working out of the house every day, and I'm also working out of the house most days, that means that our dog is suddenly looking at a lot of alone time. And none of us like that very much, because obviously right now she is a super lucky dog who is barely ever alone, because I am at home on the weekends to cuddle her like right now. And then when I'm gone at work, my boyfriend's home to cuddle her. So she's definitely getting a lot more attention than she even wants. But that's a very lucky dog, and we don't really want her to be one of those dogs who have to stay at home alone for 9 hours a day. She definitely can. She is very well trained to stay home alone for when we're out of the house for a longer time. But we don't really want that to be her everyday life. So we're going to do something kind of different. So since I am working at a vet clinic, we have some things that I think most other jobs don't. We have the option to bring our dogs to work. So you'll also see that I actually include that in this video. We have, where I work, we have kind of a employee hallway where everyone can put their own individual dog kennels, and then, you know, we can bring our dogs to work and they can stay in their little kennels during the day, like their little crates. And then, you know, when we get to lunch breaks and stuff like that, we can just let them all out in the garden and they can run around and have fun and play with each other and get all tired. And then when we hit back in for lunch, they can have another nap. And it's just a way to, you know, they're not entirely alone. And I mean, they're still, you know, pretty bored probably. Some of the time they're getting some good naps out there and just, you know, staying in their crates and stuff. But at least they're staying, you know, near us, and they have the option to be let out when we're not busy, and we can go and talk to them. And they're also very lucky because we do also sell treats, and sometimes when we get new treats, we have to make sure that they're taste tested. So I think my dog is definitely going to like that. But, you know, it's just a fun way to kind of bring the dog with us, or Gimli as she's called. And that way she won't be alone all the time. And I am very excited about that possibility. However, I do not drive to work. I bike. So I am right now in the market for a bike trailer for my dog. And I just think that is the funniest thing in the world. I mean, we all know that parents, you know, bike around with their, you know, children in those little, I don't know, those trailers or whatever, where they have all these seats and stuff, and then they can sit in there and be kind of like in tow of the bike. And that is pretty normal, but I think it's so funny to do it with a dog. I don't know, the whole concept is just making me laugh, and it's making me extremely happy to, you know, think about me biking around with her in the back. I think it's going to be a very fun look, definitely. I am definitely going from the regular obsessed pet parent to something that most people would probably call insane. And I'm fine with that. I think it's funny. Anyway, we should probably get back to the build. And as you can see, the outside is sort of coming together right now. I am going to change the color back to the white color. I don't know. I think it ended up being a little bit darker than I really wanted. I couldn't really decide what color to use. I knew I liked that wood though. But, you know, everything else about the outside was just kind of like, how am I really going to decorate this? So I am going to, you know, put some flower boxes and even make my own little flower beds some places. But it was kind of like, it was a little bit hard to really get it to come together. I think I really wished the lot that I was doing this on was just, you know, a little bit bigger, because I kind of wanted a more grand entrance, I guess. And when I put all those other things on the inside, and you know, I used a lot up for everything else, I didn't really have room for everything I wanted to do. I guess the hospital got a lot bigger than, you know, than was probably really necessary, since it isn't all functional, or I mean, it isn't all definitely not necessary. I mean, things work, it's not that, it's just, yeah, it's just big for storytelling purposes. But I am kind of like just, you know, making the outside nice and pretty. And I'm sorry if I end up skipping a bit through time. These were, you know, filmed on different days, so I just kind of tried to pair things together with, you know, the other things that were going on, you know, like one part at a time. I think I prefer that to jumping around constantly. I like to, you know, make it so I focus on, you know, finishing the outside and then finishing the reception and the whatever, one room at a time. I think it makes it less confusing, but when I am building in real time, I do kind of jump around a lot. I, constantly move from room to room and get new ideas and move back. So that's why you sometimes see, you can see inside the windows, for example, right now, that things are more decorated than they were when you last saw the inside. So I hope that it all makes sense to you, and if it doesn't, I can definitely do it the other way and just, how I do it actually, and show you that process. But it is, jumping around, you don't really, see things finished that way and don't really get to talk about the rooms in the same way. But if you prefer that, I can definitely do that. It would make editing a whole lot faster too. But yeah, this is the outside, and as you can see, I finally changed it to that white again, and that is how it's going to end up. So yeah, you can get used to that. Even if in the future part of the video it might look, gray outside at some points, this is what it actually looks like in the end. Yeah. So it was fun to kind of make this more modern build, and I really wanted it to look finished. It was hard to decide how to decorate it, what plants to put outside, what not to put. But yeah, I don't really do community lots a lot. So I don't know. I usually like to build a lot of, I guess, foresty and, grungy kind of landscapes. You can look at my river recluse video, for example. I like to do stuff like that. So something like this is very different, but it's also, a fun challenge to do every once in a while. Speaking of community lots, I definitely have a whole newfound desire to do a lot of them because of the whole new businesses and hobbies pack. So I haven't got the pack. Like, I don't have the pack, and I bet a lot of you don't either. But I do love watching YouTube, and I love to watch other sim creators, and I really want to build all these small businesses where we can live on top of, and I just always get so inspired when I see other people build things. Like, every time I see any video, I'm like, oh, I want to build that too. It's like, maybe don't copy other people, Sarah, and I'm not going to, but I definitely have a desire to build community lots that I never had before. So who knows, maybe I'll get the pack at some point. I am not in any hurry because I don't get to actually do these videos a lot. I am very busy with other things. I'm trying to get my life in order, or at least my house in order. My poor house has been very neglected for a while, and I am trying to get everything cleaned up and everything, right, and all those things, but I don't have the time to constantly play The Sims and do these voiceovers and stuff like that, even though it is so much fun and I love to do it, and it's not a chore. Don't get me wrong, it's not a chore. It's just a hobby that, I don't have time to do all the time. I also need to do other stuff. And I bet a lot of you guys feel the same way, and that's why, a lot of us are not in any hurry to get the new packs whenever they come out. I mean, we can all have those like, oh yeah, that would be so fun, that's so cool, I would love those, but we don't really need them. So I don't know, I'm definitely not going to buy it myself until I have, time to really play it. But I don't know, maybe I'll get it for my birthday, which is next week, which is so cool. And I'm going to see actually Sabrina Carpenter on my birthday. I don't know if any of you guys have been to a show. I have not. I am going with my best friend on my birthday. I took some days off work and I am so excited about it. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. Even though I don't really even listen to her a lot, I know her hits, as most of us do, and I know her vibe, and I think she seems really cool, but I actually don't listen to her music all that much. I just think concerts are fun, and that's definitely a huge concert, and I think I'm going to be such a giant fan when I get back from it, probably. I am so easily influenced. But as you can tell right now, I am working on kind of the back of the clinic. Like, I already did, the front with all the regular consultation rooms, and then you also saw me build some extra rooms, and that is where I imagine that if your pet had to be admitted to the hospital for, a while, maybe after surgery or something like that, those are the rooms they could go to while they're in, the hospital's care. So we have those kind of rooms where the, what's it called? Admitted patients kind of stay for a while. And I made one for cats and I made one for dogs, and the dog one has, an easy entrance out to the garden so they can, get out and pee. And then obviously, as you can tell, this whole build kind of has a lot of very sterile things, like a lot of it is white, it's metal, it's things like that. But then also it is an animal hospital, so I threw blankets everywhere, and all the cozy stuff, all the toys and things like that, they're just everywhere in real life. We have so much. I do so much laundry at my work, so yeah, this is actually a lot of fun. So what I am doing, that room that I'm working on right now, like the big one, it is what we call forberedelsen in Danish. It is inspired by my own job, but it's kind of like the preparation room. So that is where, when we have to put your cats and dogs and pets under for surgery and stuff like that, we kind of do it out in the open and everyone can sort of help each other. It is so wild when you're used to, human hospitals where there is a completely different sense of privacy for each patient. So with our hospital, we actually, work on a lot of patients in the same room at the same time in the back. That way, we can all walk around and help. Also because you never really know, I think dogs and cats and stuff are pretty unpredictable. Like if, suddenly a big dog starts lashing out, and, they will sometimes not lash out in a violent way, but just thrashing around as a reaction, then we need to obviously make sure they're safe, and then we need hands. So one of my jobs is also being hands. I'm just a person who, if we have to take blood from an animal and, maybe they want to scoot back on the table because they're trying to get away, then I can just kind of stay in the back and pet them on the back, and then, they'll stay on the table. And all these things, I think it's so interesting. The way that it's done is so different from, human hospitals. Where you would never just have, 3 patients lying in the same room as people are, putting them under general anesthesia and stuff like that, and be naked, and you'd never do that to a human. So definitely, or at least I don't think so. It's what I hear. It's definitely supposed to be different. But yeah, and then obviously we don't do surgeries in the same room. I'm not trying to. It's not it's unhygienic or anything like that. We just work, on multiple patients in the same room, drawing blood and stuff like that. But yeah, one of the things I included that we don't really need to include in The Sims is the laundry room, because that whole laundry cleaning room is definitely so realistic, and that's where I spend most of my day, just, getting ready to clean up pee and blood and all these things, and obviously wash and do the laundry and just a lot of things. We also have all the pet food, because when pets are, there for a longer period of time, we actually do feed them. They're staying with us, so we have our toys and our, our food, our fridge, and all these things in real life, just for the dogs. And then obviously also the blankets, because it's obviously a little bit of a sad environment. It's not, home or anything like that, but we do try to cuddle them up in a lot of blankies, in their own little individual crates and kennels that they get to stay in. Obviously, everyone who works there just loves all animals so much, and they just do everything they can to, we just want it to be as comfortable as an experience as possible, because obviously it is going to be stressful. We can't tell them what we're doing or why we're doing it, why we're poking them with needles. I mean, I often compare it to kind of being abducted by aliens, how we used to think. All those old sci-fi movies where you just kind of get poked and prodded and you don't understand anything, and it's these huge beings, and obviously they know what humans are. But I had one that was in active labor, and she was just, crying, and I was sitting there. She was waiting. She needed a cesarean. I'm talking about a dog. And I just sat there with her and, tried to pet her and make her feel better, but obviously she was in a lot of distress, and that is so scary. You know, we can't tell her that, hey, we're working as fast as we can, we really want to like help you and get your babies out and get everyone safe, and these things. It can be really heartbreaking, honestly. And they are in a strange environment, and there will be other animals. Like, I get it. It must be so stressful, but we're doing everything we can to, you know, make it as comfortable as possible. I mean, some dogs obviously don't mind being there as much, and there are obviously different situations. Like, someone in, you know, a dog in active labor is going to have a completely different experience than the dog that we just bring to the back so we can, you know, help each other cut their nails when the owner is not. Some owners can't really hold their own dogs for stuff like that, and then, you know, they'll just come back and we'll give them like a million treats as someone holds them, and another one cuts their nails and stuff like that. And that's going to be obviously a vastly different experience from other dogs or other cats. But yeah, it's kind of a weird environment. Like, we're trying everything we can to make it nice, and yet we also know it's never really going to be nice. It's always going to be stressful, and we just wish we could do more somehow. Anyway, as I've been talking, I've worked a lot on the employee-only kind of areas, you know, their break room, their own office where they can, you know, write their journals, and what's it called? It's probably not going to be called journals in English. Charts? Whatever, you know, their notes about each patient notes. But yeah, in the back, I'm giving them, like, their own office, I'm giving them a kitchen, an actual break room where they can sit and eat their lunch. I'm also putting in a locker room and an employee-only bathroom, and then obviously the star of the show is going to be the employee hallway. And the only reason that's the star of the show is obviously, as I told you guys before, that is where my dog will be staying probably. But yeah, that is kind of like how our kennel setup is also for the employee dogs. Obviously we have closed kennels, and I couldn't really do something like that. We don't really have crates and dog houses and stuff like that in The Sims 4. We did in The Sims 2. I remember very clearly because Sims 2 was my jam, as all of you probably know. But I just kind of made it like so they each have their own little fenced-in area with their own dog bed and stuff like that. And that is kind of how it is in, you know, my real-life workplace, where we have all the dogs back there, and then we can just open the door into the break room and out into the garden, and then they just get to run around and play until they get tired or until we have to get back to work. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today. We're definitely nearing the end of the video, or we are at the end of the video. So I just want to thank you so much for watching again. If you have any questions or I said something that don't sound right about veterinary care, feel free to leave them down below. Obviously, I am no expert. I just work there and find it super interesting. So I want to clarify if I said anything that sounds too weird. But again, thank you so much for watching. I have a lot in store for you guys. I've gotten a lot of suggestions lately that I can't wait to start on, like fairy villages and hippie communes and stuff like that. A lot of great suggestions, and if you have any, always leave them down below. I hope you have an amazing week ahead of you, and don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff that makes me so happy and helps me out a ton. Yeah, thank you. Bye!